Coming up on Lawmakers, a Hope Scholarship compromise is reached that would maintain payment for books and fees. With the federal deadline looming, the House Reapportionment Committee still hasn't passed a map. And tort reform gets a hearing in the House and inspires a lively Senate debate. Those stories and more are coming up next.
Live from Atlanta, this is Lawmakers for Wednesday, February 25th. Here are your hosts, Wendy Lawson and Gerald Bryant.
Good evening, everyone. Also on tonight's broadcast, the network of politically active Christians comes to the Capitol in support of the resolution that would ban gay marriage.
And a bill that would encourage local governments to display the 10 Commandments without fear is passed by the Senate Rules Committee. But our top story tonight, a hopeful compromise.
Senate Higher Education Committee Chairman Bill Hamrick says there's a compromise that could save the Hope Scholarship bill. That compromise would delay eliminating books and fees from the Hope grants.
Well, the key adjustment is that since the lottery revenues have increased over what we projected, we believe that we may be able to put the books and fees back in for this year and then have a trigger, an objective trigger, where if we dip into the scholarship reserve, then the next fiscal year we would not pay books and fees because at that point you have got to have those savings.
The Hope Commission recommended cutting books and fees, and Governor Sonny Perdue endorsed that recommendation. Democrats balked at the cuts, but now Senator Hamrick says the compromise takes the politics out of the process.
We also know that if we have a certain point where we dip into the reserves, and it's an objective measure, take the politics out of it, have a numbers-driven equation that we can do lots of things that we need to do to have the money to roll forward in future years. And that's where we're trying to get to the point and have members of the legislature understand that the key is to have money to roll forward to account for the increasing cost. And so that's why we're willing to do some things to get it moving, and that's what we needed to do.
The Senate Higher Education Committee meets tomorrow. We were told within the hour there will be no vote on the Hope Scholarship bill. At that meeting, it could come early next week.
A federal district court today heard from both parties regarding the state's redistricting lawsuit. The three-judge panel ruled that if no maps are in place by the March 1st deadline, that's coming up this Monday, the court will appoint a special master to draw the maps. But legislators from both parties say they don't want the maps to be taken out of their hands.
I think that the House has dropped the ball and let down about 8.5 million people if they don't pass a map. We have until Monday to do something about this, and the General Assembly ought to be drawing maps for Georgians, not the courts. And so I hope we can still move in that direction.
The fact that decision came out at the time the House was dealing with the budget put an unusually high amount of pressure on them to do a budget and reapportionment. So I know the House is working day in and day out to try to meet this deadline. I don't think that if they are not there by March 1st, it means it's all over, that the legislature can't draw maps. I certainly think the courts would probably welcome if something came out, but I just know they're having a hard time trying to meet that deadline right now.
The court also suggested that both parties give a report on multi-member districts. Senate President Pro Tem Eric Johnson's Chief of Staff, Amanda Seals, spoke on the court's decision.
The courts actually have asked both parties to submit a 15-page brief by this Friday to create guidelines for the court to use in drawing the maps. And the judges specifically asked for each party to include the pros and cons of using multi-member districts. So they definitely have an interest in it and want to see why or why not the General Assembly should include them in the plans.
This morning, Senator Johnson wrote House Reapportionment Committee Chair Carolyn Hughley, urging her committee to take up the new Senate redistricting plan. The letter concluded, "On behalf of the citizens of this state, I am urging you to vote our map out of your committee and the State House." And with only 2 legislative days remaining before that federal court deadline on Monday, the House has yet to pass a new map of House districts or approve the new Senate maps. Lawmakers Chrissy Thrasher joins us live with more from today's House Reapportionment Committee meeting. Chrissy.
In Wandy today, members of the House Reapportionment Committee studied the proposed changes to the House districts. Committee Chairwoman Carolyn Hughley says the House is working hard to meet the March 1st deadline and prepare a map that a majority of the House can agree on.
The major change is the deviation went down from 8-point-something to less than 6% on the deviation. So we went back in and we tightened down the deviations in the map. As you know, we have 180 members, and when members look at their area, they bring to our attention some things that we don't necessarily know about their district that we might need to adjust and that kind of thing. So we've made those kind of adjustments. We have been very open in our process, taking input from Democrats and Republicans alike so that we can move the map forward. Now, anybody can draw a map, but we have to have a map that we can gain a majority of the House to support. And so that kind of makes our work a little bit more difficult, and we have been working at that diligently, and we have been listening to our members, and I believe that we are very near completion, and we're about ready to move it forward.
And the House Reapportionment Committee plans to meet tomorrow to try to pass a map. Once the House approves their map, it must be approved by the Senate. Reporting live, I'm Chrissy Thrasher for Lawmakers.
Thanks, Chrissy.
Well, the tort reform bills may still be in the Senate Judiciary Committee, but that didn't stop a tort reform debate from breaking out on the Senate floor today. At issue, Senate Bill 408 exempting doctors assisting policemen in the field from legal liability. Senator Tom Price offered an amendment that would expand that exemption to emergency room doctors, and the debate was on.
And I keep asking you a yes or no question that you won't answer yes or no. Is it because you don't have the information and would need to research it further?
No, and I appreciate the question. The reason that I'm not answering yes or no is because it's not a yes or no question.
Yes or no?
You may say it's a yes or no question, but that's not the case. In fact, what the issue is whether or not individuals in the state are going to be able to have appropriate and quality health care both in the field and in the hospital. That's the question.
Does this amendment cap both economic and non-economic damages at zero?
This amendment caps economic and non-economic damages at exactly the same amount that physician volunteers who are included in Senate Bill 408 will have.
Is that amount zero?
I believe so.
Senator Price said he supported Senate Bill 408, but that lumping doctors with policemen was a huge stretch to avoid the tort reform issue.
And that we're taking that huge stretch in an attempt to avoid the difficult question and the difficult issues that have been before this body and have not come for a vote. And that it looks cumbersome and unusual and difficult because of this remarkable intent on the part of this body not to address the real issue.
Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Charlie Tanksley asked if the Price amendment was germane or pertinent to the bill, and Lieutenant Governor Mark Taylor said it was not.
Chair rules Amendment number 1 and 1A out of order due to germaneness, broad expansion of the subject matter.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to appeal the rule of the chair as to the germaneness of Amendment number 1 to the parliamentarian of the Senate.
Under the rules of the Senate adopted 2003, appeal of the rule of the chair on germaneness is referred to the parliamentarian of the Senate, Senate President Pro Tem.
Mr. President, the parliamentarian agrees with the ruling of the chair.
Amendment number 1 and 1A are out of order.
So the ruling by Lieutenant Governor Taylor and President Pro Tem Eric Johnson stood. The Price amendment was killed, and Senate Bill 408 passed by substitute with no dissenting votes. It goes to the House. Well, the General Law Subcommittee of the House Judiciary Committee debated two different issues at the core of tort reform today. They discussed two bills that would cap awards for non-economic damages and three bills dealing with exemptions from such awards for emergency rooms. Lawmakers Jesse Freeman is live with more on that phase of the story. Jesse.
Well, Gerald, in an effort to consolidate the many tort reform bills in the Judiciary Committee, General Law Subcommittee Chairman Nick Moratakis directed all speakers to address these two core issues, not necessarily the specific bill. Committee members heard from the medical community, consumer groups, and the president of the Georgia State Bar in the over 5 hours of discussion.
It is the most difficult and frustrating thing I do, to work hard to get people into this state and then have them come to me and leave 12 or 18 months later because they perceive that the dangers of practicing and the risk of practicing in my environment is so much greater than if they go to a quiet suburban hospital or they move out of state.
It is our feeling that the tort system, as it now exists, offers the ability to men and women who have been victimized and injured by the negligence of others to recover those damages that are awarded under rules of evidence and procedure by juries in the system that we have now. We don't see any reason to change it.
In the last 2 years, about 1 out of every 3 of our doctors have been sued in our group, as opposed to 10 years ago when maybe 1 in 15 were being sued. So there's been a dramatic change in the climate. And it's not because we got dumb.
Now, the subcommittee meeting started shortly after 1 today, and it's still going when we went to air tonight, but I have just gotten word that House Bill 1396 has been given a due pass by the subcommittee. That's the bill dealing with emergency room exemptions, co-sponsored by Judiciary Chair Tom Bordeaux. Of the 3 bills dealing with exemptions for emergency rooms, it was the one least favored by the medical community. Now, the subcommittee will take up the 2 bills discussing caps in tomorrow's session. Reporting live for Lawmakers, I'm Jesse Freeman.
Good work, Jesse. Thank you.
The Senate Rules Committee today passed a resolution urging local governments to display the 10 Commandments in public buildings. The measure is sponsored by Senator Jeff Mullis and differs from the 10 Commandments bill sponsored by House Republicans.
Well, this resolution is to refer to the 10 Commandments as a religious document. As you know, Representative Westmoreland did it last week as a historic document. Well, I agree that it is historic, but the difference is that this promotes it as a religious document, and it encourages local governments and the state of Georgia to display this document without fear.
It does not mandate that the 10 Commandments be displayed?
No, it doesn't. It just kind of gives them the allowance that they have support of the state by asking them to do that.
Do you think this runs into legal problems if there would be challenges to separation of church and state or ACLU objections?
I'm sure that those liberal groups would object to that, but let me tell you, this country was founded under God. The Declaration of Independence states that we praise God. The Constitution reference to God, our Creator. Our country has been founded under those principles, and I think it is important that we promote the 10 Commandments as playing a part of that introduction to God in our country as being the main driving force of our success.
Now the Mullis resolution goes to the full Senate. Meanwhile, House Democrats introduced their own 10 Commandments bill today. It would authorize any government agency to display the 10 Commandments.
In other news, Tim Echols of the Network of Politically Active Christians held a press conference today in support of a constitutional ban of gay marriage at both the state and national levels. David Zelski joins us live with the details. David.
Well, thanks, Gerald. Children from Canton to Commerce, Georgia, joined Echols to speak on their own behalf, urging legislators to pass Senate Resolution 595, which has spent the past week in the House Rules Committee.
To sanction the practice of homosexual marriage in Georgia is to consent and support the negative influence that such a relationship will have on this state's children.
President George Bush spoke yesterday urging Congress to support an amendment to the U.S. Constitution to ban gay marriage.
The amendment should fully protect marriage, while leaving the state legislatures free to make their own choices in defining legal arrangements other than marriage.
But it's not mean-spirited to try to change public policy.
Tim Echols also agrees with the president in saying this issue should be approached in a peaceful manner.
I think having the president behind it means everything, and the president has been troubled by this for a long time, and he was forced to act because of what's going on. So the momentum, the popularity of George W. Bush here in Georgia, I think is going to push this thing right on through.
Senate Resolution 595 is expected to come up for discussion and possibly a vote in the House Rules Committee tomorrow morning. Reporting live, I'm David Zelski for Lawmakers.
Thank you very much, David.
Well, should gas customers have a grace period to pay their bills? The House today votes in favor of allowing 8 additional days to send the check to the natural gas company. Opponents of the bill, including Representative Fran Miller, argued that credit cards, mortgages, and other bills must be paid on time. Bill sponsor Representative Georgiana Sinkfield said he was comparing oranges to watermelons.
Why are we singling out the gas company? They all have these same kind of procedures, do they not?
Well, let me explain to you. We're not singling them out. You still pay a late fee. It just gives your people a reasonable time, and they're not hurt by it all. And, sir, and let me add to you that we're really not talking about an American Express card. You know, we're talking about people having a means to stay warm in the winter. It's utility. It's something you've got to have. You don't have to have a card. And I can tell you today that Georgia Power reads their bill every 30 days. You get your bill within 28 or 9 days. And not only that, you have 7 days from the day that the due date to pay your bill. All we're doing is say, let's help our people. I mean, they've already been subjected to a lot with this deregulation. And so I don't want us to confuse watermelons with oranges. Because the American Express and cards, you don't have to have that. You know, a lot of people don't have cards. A lot of people don't have bank accounts. But people got to be heat. Kids got to have heat. We know that.
The committee substitute to House Bill 1430 passed by a vote of 101 to 53 and now goes to the Senate. Legislators attempted to table a measure to fine municipalities that damage utility lines when digging or blasting. Those who oppose House Bill 1352 say it's too costly for cities to bear, but those who favor the measure say the public and private sector should be equal in the matter.
I think the city of Atlanta said something like this would cost them $3 to $4 million if this bill passes. And Lord knows the city of Atlanta fixing to do a major sewer business. They start building a $500 million sewer business, they're going to hit a lot of power lines and a lot of water lines, and they're going to be sued, and they're going to cost the state some more guaranteed money, Mr. Richardson. So. We don't want to do that.
But this is about safety. This body passed a law back in 1990, and the fact of the matter is counties and cities just flat ignored us. And we're trying to get their attention, and yes, we're trying to have fines for them. And they should pay fines. If they're tearing up property of yours, they ought to be accountable for it, just like a private company would be if they're going out there digging on your property and they shut your water off. Ms. Sinkfeld over here this morning was talking extensively about you got to have natural gas to heat your house. You got to have natural gas to cook. You got to have water to do a lot more than just bathe with.
An amendment to table the bill failed. House Bill 1352 passed 137 to 25 and is now headed to the Senate. The House also adopted a third piece of utilities legislation to make uniform the licensing requirements for utility contractors. Representative Alan Powell explains.
Probably because of the subject matter. We have so many people that think that they can take a backhoe or a piece of equipment and they can start digging in the earth and there's no hazards. What this is basically an upgrade to that professional act. Would allow the construction board to levy fines up to $10,000 in certain cases for those people who are out there practicing this profession without a license.
House Bill 1300 requires utility contractors to pass a course every 2 years. It also imposes penalties for those who advertise utility contracting services without a license. The measure passed by a vote of 149 to 16, and it now goes to the Senate.
The Senate today voted to create a study committee to look at how chiropractors are licensed. Here's Senator Joey Brush.
None of us that's been around here for a while particularly likes scope of practice battles. Many of us have been through many of them. This one, physicians and chiropractors at times threaten to bubble up and erupt on us, placing us between friends and associates, making calls about the boundaries of profession that sometimes we don't even understand or feel qualified to make those judgments. And I want to give a lot of credit, therefore, to both the parties in this, to the Medical Association and the Chiropractor Association. I think both have recognized this scope needs to be addressed and have come the right way and helped work on this study committee.
Senate Resolution 680 passed 45 to 0 and goes to the House.
Today, a bill that will create the Georgia Board of Massage Therapy passed the Senate Health and Human Services Committee. Senators Renee Unterman and Don Balfour explained the need for such legislation.
Before now, the therapists have never been licensed or regulated by the state, and this is an act that creates their regulation and licensing. And we have been working with their group, and I believe they have some spokespeople here for it. And it defines what is massage therapy. It goes into how the state will regulate it and licensing. And it defines what is massage therapy. It goes into how the state will regulate it and licensing. of who could be a massage therapist and how old you have to be, background report. One thing that's very important in it is that it has that the applicant must be of good moral character and background check. It talks about the schooling and how many hours and certification.
Obviously, we haven't done anything, and we need to do something. And you know, I don't know that I agree with 100% of every legislation, but I probably agree with 95% of this. And I may agree with 100%, but I don't know it.
Now, Senate Bill 551 passed the committee with amendments and heads to the Senate Rules Committee.
Well, the price for driving without car insurance has gone up. Drivers who let their liability insurance lapse now face a $25 fine, and they can have their registration suspended. The Department of Motor Vehicle Safety will add a $60 fee onto fines not paid within 30 days. That amount increases with each subsequent offense until the motor vehicle registration is suspended for 6 months after the third offense, and a restoration fee of $160 is charged. This is the latest phase of the Georgia Electronic Insurance Compliance System, the computerized insurance database approved several years ago by the General Assembly.
Gated communities could be used as polling places if a measure passed by the House today becomes law. Representative Lynn Smith explains that House Bill 1228 does not compel private communities to become voting precincts.
It gives the election superintendents the option of using a gated community for a precinct if the gated community offers to do so. Everything I just told you is optional. The election superintendent has the option of using the gated community if the gated community offers its recreation room, for example. This legislation also specifies that a map clearly delineating the boundaries be drawn if a gated community is used.
The House agreed to an amendment requiring the gated communities to open to the public during polling hours or for challenges, recounts, or recanvassing. House Bill 1228 passed by a vote of 154 to 4 and moves to the Senate.
Meanwhile, today, Senate Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee passed legislation that would allow local and state law enforcement agencies to help enforce immigration laws. Senate Resolution 574 will show Georgia to be in favor of the CLEAR Act, congressional legislation that expands immigration control from the federal level. The resolution did draw some criticism that the act would dramatically increase the workload of police officers. Opponents also said that serious crimes would not be reported because of fear of deportation. Here is a sample of the debate.
See, we got 2,000 people trying to find 400,000 people, and they just don't have a chance. It's just overwhelming for them.
How many people are you going to sacrifice? Honest folks that are in the process, or not even a part of the process because they have status here. Now, how many of those folks are you going to sacrifice to go out and try and find these 400,000?
If we were to enforce federal law, there wouldn't be any officers in the street to fight crime. And there's a lot of crime in my county.
We have to do something, and I think to do something is better than to do nothing. And if we pass this as a resolution, we are at least saying to the citizens of Georgia, who are very much aware of this problem, that we are trying to do something.
Senate Resolution 574 was given a do-pass recommendation and moves on to the Senate Rules Committee. Other bills that passed the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee would require accident vehicles to move out of the lane of traffic on all roads and would expand requirements for the use of child restraint systems in cars. Both of those bills were also given a do-pass and moved to Senate Rules.
The House Special Judiciary Committee discussed a bill today that would affect the conviction of certain crimes dealing with assault. House Bill 1259 would publish the picture of a person convicted of a family violence crime or stalking in a local newspaper. Currently, there is no such law that could require the publication of the offender's photograph. The legislation is mirrored after a Georgia DUI law. House Bill 1259 remains in the House Special Judiciary Committee for further review.
And from our Mr. Smith Goes to the Washroom file, this story, Representative Tommy Smith thinks there should be more toilets in women's restrooms, twice as many as in men's rooms, to be precise. Representative Smith is serious about this, serious enough to introduce a 2-for-1 toilet bill that would apply to government buildings built after July of this year. Mr. Smith is quoted as saying it's not good for females that they can't go to the bathroom, and it's not good for the men because we have to wait on them to get out, unquote.
Well, Governor Sonny Perdue today thanked members of the child advocacy community for the work that they do. The governor then made official the appointment of a member of the Child Advocate Board and 9 members of the Children's Trust Fund Commission.
Children's Trust Fund helps to identify those programs out in the state that are working in concert with our goals of protecting and supporting our children. So we appreciate so much your willingness to be involved in that and your dedication to making this a better state by growing our future and keeping them safe. So.
Carol Kazrowski, Bill Fuqua, Alice Thompson, Holly Bradford, Carolyn Garcia, Linda Parker, Michelle Harris, Anita Middleton, and Lori Grice were added to the Children's Trust Fund Commission.
Congratulations.
Also sworn in today, Kathy O'Neill, wife of Representative Larry O'Neill, named to the Child Advocate Board. And the board to which Mrs. O'Neill was appointed works with the Office of the Child Advocate to oversee the operations of state and local departments of child and family services.
Today was Georgia Home Education Day at the Capitol. Lawmaker Samantha Cheshire has more on the day's events.
Approximately 40,000 to 50,000 students are homeschooled throughout the state of Georgia. Ken Patterson, the director of the Georgia Home Education Association, explains why their presence at the Capitol is important.
We want the legislators to see home educators, to see the kids, to see that we're normal folks, we're successful folks, we're just regular people trying to do the best we can for our children.
Like public schools, homeschool students also have the opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities. Hank St. Dennis is the director of the Homeschool Football League.
We have started the Georgia Football League, which is a high school homeschool football league for age 13 to 18. We have 8 teams that have formed that will be playing beginning in August.
Hank St. Dennis believes that some people choose to homeschool their children because of the options.
We offer an opportunity in homeschooling that really is, we feel, unique. And we feel is special and is an opportunity to really excel because we offer a lot more flexibility, a lot more options, an ability to learn something and be an expert at it.
Homeschool students that participate in the Joyful Noise Orchestra filled the Capitol with music. Georgia Home Education Day also served as a field trip to the Capitol for homeschool students. I'm Samantha Cheshire for Lawmakers.
And coming up tomorrow on Lawmakers, the bill that could make Georgia smoke-free is scheduled for a vote in the Senate. The House Rules Committee is expected to consider Senate Resolution 595, the legislation that would effectively ban gay marriage in Georgia. And the Senate Appropriations Committee will meet to discuss the FY04 supplemental budget. We'll have all those stories and the latest from under the Gold Dome tomorrow at 7. Coming up on Friday, Lawmakers will not be broadcast because the Georgia General Assembly will be in recess. We invite you to join Georgia Public Broadcasting for Georgia's Watch on Washington as host Susan Hoffman talks with Georgia Congressman Phil Gingrey and Jim Marshall. That's Friday at 7 p.m. here on Georgia Public Broadcasting. Just another reminder for those of you with access to the internet, you can watch Lawmakers online. Just visit our website at www.gpb.org. Lawmakers is streamed live, then archived on our site every night we're on the air. Now stay tuned as Travels in Europe explores the city of Milan and Italy's Lake Como. Travels with Europe is here next on Georgia Public Broadcasting.
And that is our broadcast for this, the 25th day of the Georgia General Assembly. Thanks for joining us. I'm Gerald Bryant.
And I'm Nwandi Lawson. For everyone here at Lawmakers, good night.